Hi, welcome back to my Life with Plants. I'm Newman, and we're going to do an update on orchids in my garden and their growing culture. Right, am I on fire? No, that's just a coil. Okay, got to burn a mosquito coil. Alright, let's start with this conifer. Stands about 7.5 feet. This is facing, let's see, okay, that's south and that's north. It's west, southwesterly. So the sun kind of comes in on this side in the late afternoon, so everything that's hanging up here gets a little bit of sun in the morning, just a little, but nothing that's direct. So first we're going to start off with this Neophoenicia falcata or vanda falcata. You can see that it's been growing roots. Attaching to this cut piece of wood off a tree from the garden, and it is doing really well. The first thing that orchids typically do is establish a root system before they put a lot of effort into growth, so I won't expect much growth until it has a huge root system going. Next to it is dendrobium hancockii, which is looking healthy. However, don't seem to have any new growth yet. And I'll tell you something, this one was on the balcony for the last couple of years. It has put up with temperatures surprisingly. It's very heat resistant. So we've had temperatures almost hit 38 or more degrees, which is about 105 Fahrenheit. And I tell you that it has survived it, right? And it has still pushed out some new growth here, but it hasn't liked it, all right? So I had to move it down here because it needs a chance to have new growth, and that's just too much sun. So that is south. The back balcony faces south, and it has thick shade cloth on it, but 105 is too much for anything besides a cattleya. And cattleyas, in my mind, need a cooling at night too, so it wasn't really cooling enough. I kind of put up with it, but it's not ideal, so out it came underneath the trees. Down here is my one and only Restrepo elegans. We can't really see much, so we're going to take it down so we can have a good look at it. This one was growing indoors. However, indoors in Japan gets very hot, and it did not like it. They were showing it by putting out these leaves that are crinkled, which means its root system was compromised because of the heat. And it's showing heat stress here too, even though it's under complete shade. And underneath this conifer is about the coolest place I can provide for anything. It's about maximum of 31. And it's not going to die, that's all I can say. And it will start bouncing back once the weather gets cooler. It's also got some moss growing in there, which is fine, just means that it's a healthy growing environment. What else can I say about it? High altitude plant that comes from countries like Colombia, Venezuela, and all of those. Wet, tropical, high elevation orchid. However, it's not high elevation here, and the heat really gives it problems. It is not recommended that you go to it's not recommended that you go to anything over 90 Fahrenheit. It's about 25 degrees. So that's why it hangs out underneath here. This is its safe place where it can at least survive and then start growing again. This is a dendrobium, monoliforme hybrid. Got some nice bendy wire that it hangs from. So if you want to know what kind of flower it have, it'll be like this. And they're quite large and they're fragrant. This one was also on the balcony, but it started to show signs of stress through the leaves, which was spotting and just generally it wasn't showing any more growth, which it should be, and it was time to move it. This is one of my other vanda falcatas. It is in the moss ball. The moss ball is protruding because it's been wrapped around like that, and the orchid sits on top of it. So the roots grow over, and what this does is the moss is very acidic, as you know. The moss is nice and aerated and keeps moist and a lot of airflow, and having it the orchid growing over the top of the moss ball is kind of like it growing over the top of a branch of a tree, because their roots don't go in the medium. With the vandas, they don't put their roots into any growing medium. They want to grow and wrap around it, so it's something to hold on to and to grip. And then when the rain comes, it washes out any degraded material from the sphagnum moss. So if there's little rotten particles or slimy mildew and stuff like that, it gets flushed out, right? And then if any fresh debris falls on, it rots and provides nutrients, and anything that's degraded to the point that it's becoming fungusy is flushed away. So that's the benefits of using your moss ball that way. Same here, this moss ball is built up, so there's no chance of fungal infection or anything, because it's just draining away from the root system continuously. And same here, this one will have beautiful yellow blooms like that, and it's a nice healthy plant. Okay, now and then you might get that on an old leaf, but this is nature out here. So this one here is a white flowering, and also has the typical moss ball, so the roots grow up and over it. Now if I can just pop this one off and show you underneath. Usually underneath there's a big hole under there. There's a cavity in the bottom that lets air in the bottom too. Because when you use sphagnum moss, you just don't have to pack it all the way down right into the plant. We will come over to here. So this is another dendrobium. And it's monoliforme, and it's a hybrid, so I think the flowers will be white. It's had a lot of nice growth. It has a nice root system, and it's up over a moss ball. So once again, rainwater or the hose will flush away any debris that started to rot too much. It just gets washed away, which is ideal. This one might be sunken into the pot a little bit more, but this is actually almost empty. It has barely any medium in there at all. And this is a real species. And I know a lot of you will think it's nothing much to look at, but when it flowers beautifully. Over here is another, which is a much larger plant. The canes are fattened up.
Compost. それ葉っぱもみじ。枝は5ミリ出すけど、刻んでね、腐るように。ね、そこ置いといては触らないから。やってね。置いとくからハサミ。
This one has no growing medium at all, not even moss. It's just sitting in the terracotta pot. And look how healthy it is. So do we even need to use moss? Not really, right? And this is hanging underneath a deciduous tree. So it's under full shade. Once again, underneath these trees here, it doesn't get over 30 degrees. Which is ideal. And they are, like a lot of orchids, they're actually high altitude, so it starts 500 meters up, these plants grow. And they're mainly lithophyte. So I would love to cling on to that terracotta. And in nature in Japan, you'll have broad, leafy, humid forests. And if you get a pair of binoculars and you look on the naked side of a mountain, you might catch a glimpse of these growing right out of the reach of anybody. Way high up. So they've got to be kept cool enough. Over here is a brassavola that I have. It's not mounted to the tree, it's mounted to cork, and then that green string is just to hold it from flapping about in the wind. And it is starting to put out new growth there. And it does have, I don't know if you can see in there, but it does have the animal dung fertilizer. The roots are looking great. It's only just recently been mounted on here because it was in a pot, and it was growing fine in the pot, but I didn't want to take chances with it remaining in the pot, because if I get the extreme high humidity and stuff like that, it could bring on the rots. It's called little stars. So this one will come indoors and not stay out. And by the way, today's temperature is about a maximum of 28 degrees, which is about 90 Fahrenheit today. And we got a bit of a cool breeze. Up here is a dendrobium nobile type, and it's called dendrobium angel baby green eyes. And I bought this as a full plant in this pot, and yeah, it's a plastic pot. It's nice and healthy. It's a miniature, well, not quite a miniature, it's a medium-sized growing orchid. Being a nobile, it will flower in spring, and it will flower in absolute profusion. So this whole thing will be covered in decent sized flowers, about this big, and they have a yellow throat. It'll be absolutely covered in it. It's just magnificent. And that was the second one I bought. This is the first one I bought. It was just a baby one. I bought it a year ago, and it's been doing really well. I put up with a lot of heat on the balcony, and I have moved it to the garden where it will stay. And these nobili types, I don't need to bring them in. For winter, we have dry winters. We're part of Asia, here in Japan. In my zone, it can get down to freezing. -8 degrees at night isn't uncommon, but every day is full sun, full bright sun. And if you're to stand in the sunshine, it feels about 20 degrees, which is a comfortable warm temperature. The air temperature is about 10 degrees, and the humidity doesn't go over 40%, so it's quite dry. And rains are very sporadic, and they're usually gentle and last for no more than a few minutes, if you ever get any rain in the winter, and it dries up pretty quickly. So as soon as it's rained, because of the humidity is so low, it dries up. So they do get a little water. And this one over here is also a nobili type, and it's called, I can't remember its name, but it is an old type hybrid, and it can stay out here too. It's on an angle and moss, so it just keeps draining away. This is not an orchid, but it's a Tillandsia, the quill Tillandsia, because it has a big inflorescence that looks like a quill. And this one will come in too because it's not cold hardy. Nepenthes alata hangs out underneath this tree. It's put on a lot of growth. It is full of pitches. They have nice sticky sap, and if this camera can focus, let's try it. You may see some busy ants on there, little red ants. So they found the nectar, and they're just all going to fall down into the pitcher when they get too close and become lunchtime for the Nepenthes. The Nepenthes are native to, well, this one's native to the Philippines. It's bred with another variety, which made it nice and hardy. Can be grown indoors too. You can always tell a Nepenthes because it's a leaf that gives way to, right at the tip of it, it gives way to a pitcher, in case you're wondering. And these things are like epiphytes, or they grow on limestone, on cliff walls, and damp, well moistened forests. However, they don't like to sit in water too much, they will rot. Yeah. It hangs out underneath this tree too. These temperatures out here, well, in the summertime, they get right over 35 degrees. However, underneath the tree is your natural air conditioner. It is very hard to, no matter how much shade cloth you use on a greenhouse that has no walls or doors or anything, the tree provides the cool. You have to have oscillating fans and shade cloth, and the oscillating fans have to be going all day, every day, all night, 24 hours a day to mimic these conditions. Otherwise you can just hang them underneath a tree. Shade cloth, you can use it all you like, but it won't reduce the air temperature, which is the thing that stresses out orchids. Alright, this one has been under here for the last 3 months, and it has a lot of new growth. You can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the Lepenthes bicolor, and it was stressed as heck. Very stressed, and I took it out and I mounted it onto cork. You know, it's living its best life. It has bounced back to health. Did not like being in a pot and did not like temperatures over 30 degrees. So I had to take refuge underneath the trees. Likewise, my, what's the name of this thing again? Gosh. Do I still have the tag? Where is it? I should have a tag. Let's see. Epidendrum porpax variety alba. This is a small piece that's trying to hang in there. Needs to establish some roots yet. It could survive. This is the other piece. This is all I have left of it, which is starting to bounce back and looks healthy, and I bet it has some nice roots coming out of there. Did not like high temperatures. When it got to those 35 degrees, boop, that was the end of it. We wanted to die. And over here, this one is epidendrum. No, not epidendrum. It's a it's actually still growing on the balcony in a pot, and it has put up with high temperatures. It's high, low, ground level altitude, so at 0 altitude, right up to 1,000 meters above sea level. Very wide distribution. So because of that, it was able to survive even on the balcony, even under that stressful sun. Not under the sun, sorry, in the shade, but put up with a lot of heat. And I had to take a piece because I wasn't sure it would survive or not. And here it is mounted here, and it does have some roots that are starting to grow. Next is my latest purchase, and it is dendrobium jenkinsii, which is a complete miniature. Here's my thumb there, and you can see how miniature this thing is. And it was such a great price, I thought, okay, I'm finally going to buy one. And it has been taken as a cutting from a much larger plant by the looks of it, because it still has the remnants of it growing on something else, and it's been mounted onto this solid, unbiodegradable plastic, which has a lot of holes in it, and I will let it grow on here and see how it goes. If I have trouble, I will mount it to cork. It's under the shade, and it's under this conifer, and that's where it's going to stay, because definitely that thing will not like a shade house. This is bulbophyllum japonicum, and it put out this new growth where my thumb is. I'm waiting for more. Hasn't produced any more yet, but we will, with patience, this will definitely do fine. Now during the winter time, I will move it closer to the trunk, right? And there it'll be just warm enough, it'll be fine, it'll get through the winter, because underneath the tree will be at least 8 degrees warmer. Frost will not get under there thanks to the conifer. This one also got saved. It is a bulbophyllum lasiochilum, and bouncing back it is. You can see here it's got that new growth, and another one right there, and it definitely had the rots, that's for sure. Did not like, and I haven't found a bulbophyllum that likes anything to 100 Fahrenheit. They hate it. They just lose all their roots, and they rot extremely fast. This one is starting to produce roots onto this piece of wood, It's actually been designed for children that have big stag beetles or Hercules beetles in Japan, and they put their feed or their jelly inside here in the little containers. They rip the top off it. They're like little jellies, and they put another one in, so I decided to put that into there because it was small enough for it. And voila, it is doing healthy, new roots, great. This is another piece of their porpax alba. No, it isn't. Sorry, it's dendrobium. What is it? I'll show you in a minute. But this is the last piece that I had off one that had been growing the second time around before I bought a third plant. And it is doing much better. That is so healthy. That's the healthiest it's been. Some little tiny piece of wood screwed and then hooked up. I think I felt something climbing on my back. No, nothing. Thought it might be a big caterpillar. Alright, so thanks to those trees, things grow much better for me. We will come over to this. And up here we have that dendrobium, and its name comes to me and then leaves me. But it's a nobly type and it's growing next door, and this is a piece that the neighbor had given to me. So it's been growing out there for, she said, 10 years, 12 years, something like that. I put it on a big lump of, I got on a big moss ball, and then I've strapped it to this tree. So eventually it'll make its way onto there and grow, become thick. It's got lots of new growth. It's tortulae, dendrobium tortulae, so it's absolutely fine under there. It will not succumb to any frost or cold damage. Up here you have another Neo-Phoenicia falcata that is mounted to the tree directly. Some sphagnum moss. And once again, it's been there for the past, from spring all the way through summer, 4 or 5 months now. It just needs to build a big root system before it puts out that growth. Right. This is dendrobium loddigesii. And this is the latest one I bought back in spring, and I had it on the balcony hanging up in the shade, plenty of airflow, but when it got to 35 degrees, it was time to move it, or I would lose it. I had some telltale signs on it that let me know, which was that half of the tips of the leaves were becoming transparent, which means that it was dying under the intense heat, even though it was in the shade, and the leaves were not plump anymore. So when I touched them, they didn't have any, they just didn't feel like they had any water in them. They were absolutely thin and wafery, not wafery thin, like paper thin. So it just let me know that it was not going to put up with it. So I moved it, and it is growing in a pot with moss, but it is nice and cool under here, and it's fine. Once again, high temperatures bad. This has been under here for all spring and all summer, and I bought it as a full plant, and it is another brassavola nodosa. I got nodosa because it grows at sea level up to 800 meters above sea level or something like that. It's got a wide distribution. Can be even found on the offshore islands in the Caribbean, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. And it has gotten a little spots here and there, but I looked it up and it said that it is normal for it to get some. It's part of its battle against fungus and stuff like that, and it just normally happens to any healthy brassavola. It has a lot of new growth. You can move loddigesii over a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4 new growths. This one's a new and that one's new, so it is growing. And as it grows, new roots will come out and they will attach to this cork, because these ones haven't ever since it's been mounted. They won't grab onto it. It'll be all the new growth that does that. And that one will come inside too. However, loddigesii will stay out here. It will be fine. Cold temperatures, as long as it doesn't get frost. You can put up with it, no problem. Alright. This is a big update for such a small amount of orchids. Like always, going to give you a look at these plants. These are in the good shape too. It's only the very, very late afternoon the sun will creep in. This is something that likes a lot of water. Even my neighbor told me so. Even the internet told me so. So I got two complete different sources and they're both right. It is growing in sphagnum moss. It was in bark, we put it in sphagnum. This spot has a lot of holes in it. It looks like something from Friday the 13th. It looks like Jason's hockey mask. It's got so many holes in it to let the air in. If you look at the bulbs, they're not even wrinkled one bit. They're completely full, fat and juicy. The new growth has beautiful new leaves. Look at that. With no blemishes on them. These blemishes here are of older leaves that are going to eventually fall off, but all the new growth is pristine, healthy, and it is growing in sphagnum. And does it dry out? No, it doesn't. This thing is always moist. Can you see how moist it is? So my finger's quite wet, and it loves it. This one will come indoors over the winter, because I'm not sure if it would want to go below -5, 18 Fahrenheit. I don't know if it would like that. It will still get water. It'll have a fan blowing inside and some grow lights, and it's doing super well with lots of water, and it does not like heat. So underneath this eave here, it doesn't get over 30 degrees, and for most of the time it's below that. Okay, next we will pull it out for you. Another shade lover. Let's let you just have a good look at that. They have nice. This is a terrestrial native orchid of Japan. It has bulbs like a cymbidium. It is Phaeus, and it's close relative that a lot of growers out there grow, especially in in Florida, is Tankervillii. This one, starting to put out another late growth there, kind of late, but it has these big leaves on it, just like Tankervillii. It's got a little bit of. That just happens typically if you have hot, excessive heat. But for the most part, these are nice healthy leaves. This is a shade lover. It likes plenty of water. it's in a mix that does have some potting mix mixed with pumice and bark, so it's not just all bark and stuff, because it's terrestrial. The older bulbs are, you don't ever cut them off unless they rot, because they provide energy. And it has produced all these new growths, which means that each growth will have a inflorescence with up to 6 to 8 flowers that are fragrant yellow, and they resemble cymbidiums. So it's doing really well, and it's in the shade, does not get any direct sun at all. Okay, next, stretch in here. The ends of my fingers, I pinch this one up. This is a Chinese native cymbidium, and it's a terrestrial, see that? And this might be it's quite a small cymbidium, but it will have flowers that are honey sweet fragrant. So it'll be very unlike a lot of cymbidiums. And I picked this up for a incredible $16. And it has 2 healthy bulbs here. Usually these things go for a bit more, quite a bit more. So it's nice and healthy, everything is good. It doesn't have any growth yet, any new growth, but it will after time. It's all good. Chinese, who will stay out here for the winter, no problem, as long as it don't get frost. Okay. This is something I've had trouble growing. Cymbidiums, the boat orchids. I've been having trouble growing these because I tell you that for the last few years I've been growing them I've been just growing them, and then when the autumn sun came and the sun sneaked around to the west and it came in and I got about a couple of hours of direct sun, it died. And when it died, it completely died, and I could not refuge anything off my cymbidiums. I lost 3 of them. They were some of my favorites. So what I learned is that when you have summer sun, do not even let the sun get anywhere near it. It'll kill them. You got to have them in the shade. They can only put up with some direct sun in the winter time. However, to not take any risks, don't do it at all. Keep it in the shade all the time. Outdoors, you can see here that this is when the sun was at its most, and it was trying to push through that shade cloth, and that is heat stress. Underneath, 80% shade cloth, very dense shade cloth. That's heat stress. Now that would pop up everywhere if I didn't have it. And not only that, all the roots die, everything. This is nothing to refuge. And I've grown this successfully this year. It has kept its new growths. It's growing, it's healthy. It is somewhat overwatered. It's been kept moist all the time. But it is nice and healthy. And its roots are healthy too. A nice root here, look. It's nice and firm. And I clean it up every now and then to keep it healthy. I will keep it out here all winter. What usually happens is it'll try to produce its flower spikes from the new growths, from the matured new growths, and sometimes it'll abort them because it's just far too cold. Then it'll have a second flush, and usually the second flush will come away and flower nicely. which I had with one of my other Cymbidium orchids, the ones that I lost. So I'm not losing them anymore because I've learned something. No direct sun. Never, never. Yeah, while I'm here, I just clean off that dead bit. And back it goes. For somebody that doesn't understand about growing plants, they will look at this as, oh my gosh, I can't see it. It looks terrible. Blah, 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 blah. And they'll give their big freaking unnecessary opinion. But you have to do stuff, right? To look after your plants. Now, if I wasn't growing it here, I'd have to grow it up at the back of the property. And that would be even further away from my eyesight. That would be another option, because that is the absolute shadiest place I could provide for it, which would be ideal. But I want to be able to bring it out when it is in bud and starts flowering, and pop it out from here and put it out there, because it'll flower very early spring, so it won't be hot or anything, and I'll get to enjoy the flowers. But I have to do this to look after them, and I don't mind it. If I want to see them, I can reach in and take them out. Whoop. Put the fires back. I'm really pleased with what I've been able to achieve. You can say that these plants are, you know, pretty much good enough that if they were in a store, people would buy them. You can say that much. Shea cloth and more shea cloth. I could opt for the trees for sure. That would be another option. Right? In the future I might go for the trees. But for now, this is how I grow them. There it is right there. And I back up so you can see that it is underneath the eaves of this entryway outside. Anything that has eaves that are like that, very large eaves, frost won't get under there. And I know it for a fact because I have my Cymbidiums right there by the wall underneath the eaves. It is approximately an eave of 1.5 meters in. Frost cannot get in there. I got somebody marching around giving me orders again to do stuff in the garden, so I will be leaving. And before I leave, let's just have a look at the Japanese native Cymbidium, jenkinsii, which is the native Cymbidium of Japan, which has nice little tiny bulbs, grows underneath shrubs and well draining medium, very easy and very healthily. However, if I put it into pot culture, it suffers because it does not like heat. It grows right north, believe it or not. It can be found right up into Hokkaido, and Hokkaido, if you want to know, gets down to minus 25 degrees. So these grow right underneath shrubs in the shade, and they put up with that cold. So if you're looking for something that's cold hardy and you're in England, somewhere like that, put them outside, then grow them in your greenhouse, put them out. Okay, they'll do much better. In pot culture in England, they should be absolutely fine. We're just extremely hot tropical country. They just need to be in the ground. It's the only way to keep them cold. But if you do live in England, you can grow these in a pot easily because your temperatures don't get too hot, right? So it won't cook your root system. But do put them in the shade underneath shrubs. Plenty of water in the summer, nice well draining mix. And in the winter time, because you have winter rainfall, I suggest that you just push it underneath the eaves of the house. The cold is absolutely fine. I mean, minus 25 degrees. You can go down to that, and just don't give them any water in the winter. Keep them away from it. From early spring, you can give them a couple of good big drinks of water. And if spring is just kicking in, and when you see those buds coming up, flower buds, it's time to ramp up the water. These guys would like to say goodbye to you. Where are you? Here's some. Look. The garden grasshoppers. And there's two more right there. I know they eat the leaves and stuff, but I can't kill them. They don't eat everything. They just take a nibble here and there. They're pretty neat. Nature in your garden. I wouldn't have a big giant caterpillar eating my orchids though, and I probably wouldn't kill it either. I'd just move it. But anyway, that is the... Oh, I never showed you this, but we have another jenkinsii and it's hiding underneath here. Look. How's that for interesting? It's in the ground. Very old one. So put out lots of nice growth there. Right. In the springtime it has all these beautiful green cymbidium flowers that are very lemon sweet fragrant. They just protrude above the ground. It's looking good. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting. I'm going to show you part 2 of my update on my orchids on the balcony. So I will go through some information and facts that I've learned about them so that you guys can grow yours better. I will include maximum temperatures so that you don't cook or kill your orchids. Until next time, bye bye.